Hello, friends. I'm back. If you pay attention to my Tuesday nights at 7:05 p.m. Eastern, then you will know that I missed last week, but it was by design. I went on vacation last week and I went with one friend and we drove from Maryland to Lake Michigan and met up with another of my friends. And those two were acquaintances who became friends. And then there were 5 more people who came, and we got the tail end of the previous set of people who came. So we met a whole bunch of people, had an amazing time, and I did not work at all, which former me is giggling about in the corner, because former me would have checked in a bunch, would have worked 40 hours instead of 80 hours for the week. Former me would have told everybody I was going on vacation, but hey, if you need me, feel free to call. Or if I hadn't told anybody to call and they did, I would take them. I would take the meeting. I would do the things. I would work at night while everybody was sleeping. And I didn't do any of it because I've done the work. I continue to do the work. I continue to try to be kind to myself, and I'm learning the newer version of me that I've been working on for the last several years. And I love when I hear this kind of thing from clients or friends, because I think a lot of us have gone through a time period, and some of us are still in it, where work comes first and then everything else, and then work comes back and then everything else. And I lived that way for a really long time. So I'm extra proud of myself that I took a vacation that was a whole vacation. I had fun the whole time. And I just was so relaxed about it. And then yesterday, if you don't know me well, you may not know that I have some chronic illnesses. Yesterday I sort of crashed and I was having trouble staying awake, which is a big crash for me. That's not how I usually crash, but I let myself sleep for most of the day. I woke up for the couple of meetings that I had and I did the things I had to do, but I was kind to myself. I slept in a little bit this morning and I was kind to myself today. And again, did what I needed to do and a few things that I actually wanted to do as well. And then I have just breathed for a lot of the day. So I'm so glad to be here with you. I'm so glad to be back here with you. And we're going to spin the wheel. If you're here watching me live on Instagram, you're getting sort of the bird's eye view, and everywhere else you're getting the front view. The wheel you can't see on Instagram, but I will tell you what we choose. But if you don't know how this works, every week I spin a wheel. The wheel of chance picks a topic for me, and that's the topic I'll talk about for the next little while. So let's pull that wheel up and see what we are given tonight by the magical wheel, if I can find the magical wheel, which maybe I'm having a little bit of trouble finding. Oh, here it is. Okie dokie. Cool. Ready? And here we go. Managing up. Amazing. Such a cool topic. Here we go. Okay, I'm back. So the topic tonight is managing up. And this is one that I get a lot from my clients, because people will say oh, you got to manage up, kind of the way that they say, oh, you have to be strategic. It's such a nebulous, what do you mean I have to manage up? I follow up with my manager all the time. I report right to the CEO. We have 6 meetings a week, right? So we think we're managing up because nobody has actually told us what managing up is. So let's first define what managing up is. And if you're a VP or director or manager and you don't know what managing up means, welcome to the world of normal people, because a lot of people think they're managing up and have absolutely no idea what it means. So first, I'm going to tell you what people think managing up means, and then I'm going to tell you what it actually can mean. People think managing up is keeping your manager informed of what's going on, telling them when you need time off, asking them for their input on things when you're not sure what to do, fixing the problems that get out of control or out of hand or like out of your realm of understanding. And telling your manager, keeping your manager informed if you need to do like disciplinary action or you need to manage something like cross-functionally and you're not sure what to do. That's what people think managing up is like really ultimately, like if we gave it just sort of one phrase, keeping your manager informed. That is a part of building a relationship with your manager that is super important. And I do not want you to walk away discounting the vital importance of that. That is super, super important. That said, none of that is managing up. That is managing your job. So what is managing up, Lauren? Why don't you tell us? Stop keeping us in suspense. Managing up is getting what you actually need, support, budget, support. I'm gonna keep coming back to support, budget, support, big picture stuff, and really having that ingrained in your ability to get done what you need to get done and to get out of things when you need to get out of things. So I'm going to give you an example of how I've managed up, and then I'm going to give you an example of how one of my clients managed up. So I managed up by bringing to my leadership, my CEO at the time, that we were breaking some laws. So I managed up by telling that CEO what laws I thought we were breaking, why I thought they were being broken, what I knew about the history of them, and what the repercussions might be. And then I came to him with a plan, and he said, I agree with all of this. How do we do it? And I told him exactly where I needed his support and his input and his involvement in certain conversations. And I told him what to leave me alone to do. And I told him what I would handle without him, what I would handle with him. The difference between that and just like managing your job and your relationship is the amount of control you're taking over the process. So in managing the job, I might have said, these are the laws I think we're breaking. We have to fix these things. These may be the repercussions. This is the part I'm willing to do. And like, I don't know what to do over here. When you say, I don't know what to do over here, and you just sort of push it out, you're giving up control, you're giving up authority, and you're giving up autonomy. When you switch that and you say, here's where I need your support, and here's where I need your input, here's where I need you to be in the room with me when I'm leading this conversation, you are demonstrating leadership and ownership. And so you are managing up. So that's one example of managing up in a situation. Another example of managing up, which I'll share with you, a client situation. I had a client who was not getting agreement from another department in doing the work that needed to be done. So managing the job could have been, you go to that person, you tell them you need their help, is like A+ managing the job. When that doesn't work, because often it doesn't, a next step, which is managing your job, could be sending a message to your manager and asking them to contact that person's manager, or sending a message to your manager and CCing that person's manager, or sending a message to that person and CCing their manager and your manager. That's managing the job. Tough on relationships a little bit, right? Managing up, managing to your manager, is going straight to your manager and saying, these are the challenges I've had with so-and-so. This is what I've tried so far. My next step will be to have another conversation with that person, tell them that I need things to change, tell them exactly what I need, and that if things don't shift, that I will be pulling in the next level of management. That is above and beyond taking control of the relationship on the side that you can, on your own side, knowing that you will have done everything you can do to foster the relationship and the completion of work, and telling your manager, hey, I've got this covered. And if I don't have it covered, I'm going to come back to you, but I want you to know what I'm covering so far. Okay. So, and a third way of managing up is asking for what you actually need and taking a stand for it. Now, this could be time off. This could be support for a promotion. This could be support for boundary setting. I had that in my own career. I was able to work myself down from 80 plus hours a week to 60 plus hours a week by myself, by just changing some of my own behaviors, my own responses, delegating more effectively and impactfully, allowing other people to take pieces of their job that I had done because I had just always done it, and really like forced discipline on myself to boundary set and say no to more. Once I got myself to 60 hours a week, I no longer could sustain 60 hours a week anymore. Like I didn't want it anymore. And I couldn't figure out what else to let go of without really just skipping duties, right? And so I went to my manager and I shared with him, to the CEO, and I shared with him what I had been working on letting go of and how, showing him, demonstrating to him that I had taken the autonomous route as much as I could with the authority that I had as a vice president, to hand off bits and pieces, to say no to things, to shut down projects that weren't serving the organization, to pull myself out of meetings that I was only invited into because like, oh, Lauren's really good at organizing us, and that sort of thing. And then I went to him and I said, I'd really like to get down to 40 hours a week. Now, asking him for help is not managing up. Can you help me do that? Is not managing up. Offering him a variety of solutions for how we do that, and then telling him where I'm stuck, that's managing up. So saying to him, I think I should no longer manage these functions, and here's who I think should manage them. I also think that this function needs to just stop happening. It's not serving anybody. It's not helping anybody. I'd also like to change the reporting structure of this person to report into that person. And I'm still hanging on to some work from this department that I interim manage. And I told you I was going to keep it. And now I'm sorry about that. And I'd like permission to hand it off and whatever help I need in doing that. That's going to get me down to about 50 hours a week. Then I need your help figuring out where I can wrap up things and where else we might move things, and I need help. I need accountability in stopping raising my hand for everything. So I'm asking for his help, but I'm doing it in a really empowered way. And so when we're effectively managing up, we assume the role of partner to up, right? And I'm using up in quotes now because there is no real up, right? Generally, if your manager's a jerk and they have this hierarchical perspective of how things should be and how, they should be the king on the mountain and you're the lowly peasant, different story, maybe time to work yourself out of that environment. But if you have a reasonable manager, when you manage up appropriately, you are talking to that person as a colleague. And the power dynamic that gets made up with all of us starts to disappear a little bit. Doesn't mean that if there's a hard conversation to have, your manager's not going to have it with you. But it also doesn't mean that if there's a hard conversation for you to have with your manager, that you can't bring it up. And I've talked about this before, that the power dynamics that we put in place are made up. Right? Everything's kind of made up. We're all guessing our best guess, and imposter syndrome is a whole other topic. But when you go to work, whatever level you are, when you look at each next level, you're looking at it like this. The way an organization functions the best is sort of like, I picture like, I don't know if you remember that game from when we were kids, Don't Tip the Waiter. There was like a little waiter guy with like these scales on either side. And you had to, I don't know if it was roll dice or spin a wheel or something, but then you had to put something on his left arm or his right arm, and you had to balance it just so. That's how organizations work. There are a whole bunch of don't tip the waiters, right? And no matter what level you're at, you can be the freaking CEO of the company. If your assistant leaves, if your executive assistant leaves and you don't have that support anymore, and executive assistants are like a super special quality of people with an incredible organizational skills usually and balancing skills, that like the CEO's food is just going to like get tipped off the waiter because the weight of the responsibilities of the executive assistant are too much for the CEO to just like take on if that person leaves. So ideally, you also could almost picture like inner tubes in a lake, right? That they're like floating up and down a little bit. And as the tide moves, do lakes have tides? I don't know. As the current moves, things shift a little bit. And so sometimes in an organization, my job's more important than yours, and then yours is more important than mine. And that can be a moment to moment shift. But we build this hierarchy of I am here and my boss is here and my boss's boss is here and the board is here, right? And when you think about power dynamics in general and how we can't do things without each other, I always like to think of like, we think our boss's job is here and we're here, and our boss has control over whether we live or die, whether we have a job or don't have a job. Not live or die. We're not usually life or death. But the power dynamic totally can shift. So let's say that you leave the office and you both get in your cars and your boss gets 2 flat tires, right? And you leave right after your boss and you can't do anything with 2 flat tires. 1, you can put the spare on if you've got a spare. 2 flat tires, you're out of luck. And it turns out his cell phone is dead. So here he is now on the side of the road. You're about to drive by him. Power dynamic, total opposite. You have the power. You are in the hierarchy. You are higher up because you have a car and a phone and the ability to stop and help him. So our power dynamics are situational and like pretty made up, because if you just drove away, sure, you had more power to drive away. Somebody else would drive by, right? And somebody else might stop for him and do what he needed them to do to, call whoever he needed to call. So in a lot of cases, management, leadership, CEOs don't look at the people who work with them as people who work for them. Often with good management, there's a mentality that we're all in this together and we're all growing and building together. And if you are able to manage up in a way that is constructive and helpful and good for the organization and good for you, then you're doing it well. Where we so often fall short in managing up is that we don't think we're allowed to ask for anything for ourselves. We think that if we're going into our boss's office to manage up and we're coming in with a problem solution formula, right? Problem, proposed solution, here's where I need your help is sort of the 3 things you want to look at. We don't think it can be for us. So to go to our managers and say, I need something to be different for me, feels like, please, please, please help me. I'm lazy and dumb and not that hardworking and I'm incapable. So please, please, please help me to get out of some of this stuff, right? Or please, please, please help me. I can't set a boundary with this person and I need you to come in and like parent the situation. That's not it. That's not, first of all, that's not managing up. Secondly, that's not how like people work at work, right? And third, your leadership is ultimately there because to help you succeed, right? There's nothing worse than when somebody leaves an organization or company because they weren't getting support, but they also never asked for it. And I am my own example of that. When I was working 80 hours a week, my CEO, I reported directly to the CEO, he had no idea I was working 80 hours a week. And when he came into my office to talk to me, and I said, I need to talk to you about something too, my heart was pounding. And I was like, felt like I had to tell him everything I'd already done, which you do. That's part of the presentation of solutions is here's what I've already managed. And he said, before he said anything, you were working 80 hours a week? Lauren, I never would have let that happen. And if I hadn't said anything, and if I hadn't started making my own changes to my work, and if I hadn't started setting these boundaries, when I eventually left because of burnout, ultimately, I would have said, I just couldn't sustain these 80-hour weeks. And he would have said, I wish you had told me you were working 80 hours a week. That's not reasonable. So while I am proud of myself for having made that shift and done some of that on my own first, I didn't need to. I could have gone to him when I was working 80 hours a week and said, I'm working 80 hours a week. Here's my plan of what to let go of first. Then I will need your help to let go of more. And that's some of the work I do with clients is like, what is the first thing you can do? Because it's not necessarily about going into your boss's office and saying, I need to shave 20 hours off of my week. Sometimes it's about going into your boss's office and saying, hey, I'm in meetings for these 5 projects. And in project number 4, I don't actually belong in there because this person's handling this, which I would handle in their absence. This person's handling that, which I guess I would handle in their absence. And I don't actually really fit in there. I'm in there because they know I'm organized and that I can keep everybody sort of on track. So I'm happy to do a little bit of training on how to run a good meeting with that team, but I don't think I actually need to be in there. What do you think of that? Right? That is managing up. That is sharing the reasoning behind why you are changing things. So I hope that's helpful in managing up. If you want to talk about strategic management, managing up, anything having to do with like the ability to boundary set, that's what I'm here for. That's what I do. I believe fine is a trap. I don't believe that we belong in fine. And if you're on Instagram and you just saw me point, I was pointing to my logo on Restream. But I believe fine is a trap. And we keep saying we're fine until we're so not fine that we want to just like burst. And that's not a way to be. It can be different. And I have so many clients who have come in thinking that things couldn't change unless they bolted out the door from where they were, and who have stayed where they are, but with new boundaries and new rules of engagement, and have found real joy. And I have other clients who have realized that they're worth more than their organization's allowing them to be and have, and I've helped them leave. So glad to be back for Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs. I'll be back again next Tuesday, and I will see you all then. Have a great evening, everybody. Bye.